Welcome to episode 159 of Nobody Special.
In this episode, we talk about Danny's new dog, Zep, and discipline.
The Gospel Outpost presents Nobody Special. Hey everyone, welcome to Nobody Special, two Nobodies talking about the somebody who matters. I'm Danny, your host and dog trainer of Nobody Special.
And I'm Caleb, we are the host of Nobody Special. This is the podcast where two generations of people are looking to find God in pop culture, politics, and everything in between, all while not taking any of it too seriously.
Caleb, let's jump into some pop culture before we get to the actual...
Let's do it.
Kind of the topic for today. So there's a few movies that have come out.
Yes.
A few things that are coming out, and a few things that will never come out. Black Widow. I'm sorry. Anyway.
I don't care about that movie.
I do. Sorry. And they pushed it back again, by the way. And they're like, Disney Premier Access. I'm like, come on, don't make me pay for it.
They're not putting it in theaters?
They're also putting it in theaters.
Oh.
But they're on the Premier Access thing for Disney. But Godzilla vs. King Kong finally came out.
Yeah.
Who you got?
I got my main man,
Godzilla,
in my corner.
Right, absolutely. Because one of them is a mythical kaiju who is powered by nuclear power and has a laser beam that can come out of his mouth. Mm-hmm. And the other...
is a monkey.
A big monkey? A big monkey.
Big monkey.
Still a kaiju. What
does kaiju mean?
Big monster.
Oh.
Essentially. Boy, that's a whole internet debate.
Big monster.
As in, it's a thing bigger than its actual kind of a size, and that led people...
what it's based off of.
Yeah, so like I gotta be sure I'm spelling this right. Kaiju is a Japanese word meaning strange creature. In English, it's come to mean monster or giant monster, referring to the large kind of the size. So,
kaiju.
Yeah.
That's right. It's Pacific Rim. That's one that used that term a lot.
Yep. Yeah. They are also kaiju in there.
Kaiju.
And a person asked on the internet a question that, hey, to all of our listeners, please tell us in the comments. I just need to know: is John Bunyan a kaiju? Is it John Bunyan? I feel like John Bunyan's a theologian. No, he's a giant man.
It's not even a monster.
He's a giant. Bunyan.
It could be a nice creature.
Yeah. They don't.
Aww.
Well, for half of it, Godzilla's kind of a good guy as he's fighting.
I remember that in the
Godzilla.
first one.
John Bunyan. Who am I thinking of?
John Bunyan. Are you talking about the Green Bean Man?
No, but also, is he a kaiju? I think John Bunyan might actually be a theologian. Oh, look, I have terrible internet here. What else is new? So anyway, please tell us in the comments who you think I'm talking about and whether or not he's actually a kaiju. No, I don't get it.
What, that movie?
Well, why it's a fight?
Yeah, it doesn't look very interesting. Hey, but it has its audience. I was talking to one of my middle school kids about it, and he went to go see it, and he was thrilled about it.
Did he also enjoy the Transformers movie?
I don't know. I haven't talked to him.
I would be willing to put down a fair amount. Yep, I'm sorry. John Bunyan is not the guy I'm thinking of. He's an English writer appearance.
Bunyan?
Sorry. Back to my second thought. I'm positive, with no research done on this, that the same crowd that enjoys these movies are the same crowd that enjoy the Transformers movies.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a bit of stereotyping.
No, yeah, it's the big action, explosions, destruction.
Weak plot.
Yeah, weak
plot.
Yeah, I hate Transformers movies.
They're bad.
Just can't with them.
The old spark. So anyway, Godzilla. Here's my prediction. So I haven't seen it. I think I'm watching it this week. Something's going to occur.
You watch it?
Yeah.
You going in the theaters for it, or are you watching it on HBO?
I pay money, and I'm going to watch this god awful movie. Speaking of god awful movies, there's a Mortal Kombat movie coming out. Did we already talk about that?
Yeah, we already talked about that.
Why is it a plot? Why are they making it a plot? I don't get it. It's still a plot. So who's your favorite Mortal Kombatter?
I don't know, because I don't watch Mortal Kombat.
Fair enough.
Or play it. See, that shows you how much I know about it.
I mean, it's
I know.
right in.
I know the song. Once that one time that was like a craze going around, people singing the Mortal Kombat song, which is a great song.
Mortal Kombat.
But other than that,
okay. So in update for who am I thinking of? I googled John Tallman Kaiju, and one of the first. Well, actually, I googled John Tallman, and there is a person whose name is John Tallman, and so like I don't know. John Tallman.
Hey, so is the Iron Giant a kaiju?
I wouldn't say so because he's a robot.
But he's not at the same time. He has like heart, you know. He loves the boy, and came back together, all of his pieces, to come back and say hi again.
I don't know. Well, if you have a thought, tell us in the comments.
Hey, quit dismissing me like that.
No, I honestly don't know. Is Iron Giant a kaiju?
He is in my heart.
He's just a tall
He just
creature.
has a heart of steel.
To be a kaiju, they have to be a thing, but in greater
creature.
Proportion. So
hey, most
in
robots
his case,
are small.
No, he's just a big robot. So I would say no on kaiju for Iron Giant.
Well, you know.
Yikes!
Well, Green Bean Man still makes it in as a kaiju. So.
I think so. I'll have to give that to you for
Green
Bean
Giant.
Green kaiju. So the final is the Mighty Ducks versus the Don't Bothers. Who you got?
What is that?
That's the new Disney Plus kind of show, The Mighty Ducks Game Changers or something. I was watching this because I thought it was going to be a cool throwback to the movies, which I made you watch one of them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make you watch another, but I'm not going to make you watch the third one because it's trash. And I don't know. It's kind of shaping up to be kind of a fun program. I'm gonna be honest. It's more enjoyable than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
And it's got its moments. It's got some heart to it. It's got quasi good acting.
So did Mighty Ducks come out when you were a kid?
Let's see. It came out in '92, so I was I was 8. Yeah.
Nice.
So
little baby Danny. Oh.
No, Mighty Ducks. Like in '90s, they had this weird era of sports. Idolatry, for lack of a better word, where they thought that sports, they were big then. Yep. They were a lot bigger. They had the 90s Bulls. They had all these teams that were doing great stuff. America was on top of it and doing phenomenal. And then they thought, well, then these guys playing off their success, we need to create programs about sports, programs that piggyback off sports, and programs that include athletes. And so there's a fair amount of really bad movies and things that came out in the 90s because it's like starring Wayne Gretzky, who can't act his way out of a bag.
Wayne Gretzky, who's that?
He's a hockey player.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know what is the best of them all, though? And I will fight anyone who says...
Sandlot.
Well, that's different. That's not really. It's not really a sports movie.
It is absolutely a sports movie.
I mean, it has baseball, but the one that's out of like the actual like Mighty Ducks and all that stuff, Cool Runnings rises above them all, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise. Because John Candy, you can't.
Gosh, that's a really good.
John Candy is just great. Okay, and then every single one of the characters in there are so good,
based on a true story.
Just like the plot is interesting in itself. That it's just like they're from Jamaica where there's no ice.
Right. Well, it's based on a true story. Yeah,
exactly.
Like, this was an actual team. So,
and that's why it's so freaking like so good. So good.
Gosh, okay.
Feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme. Come on, Jamaica, it's bobsled time.
Get on up, it's bobsled. How dare you?
No. Come on, Jamaica, it's bobsled time. I will. I wish I had internet to search this up. Feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme. Come on, Jamaica, it's bobsled time. Get up, it's bobsled time. Doesn't even make any sense. No.
Oh, absolutely.
No. I could have sworn they said, come on, Jamaica, it's bobsled time.
Nope, they don't.
No.
Get on up. It's bobsled time.
Oh, wow. I feel really defeated.
So Caleb just
don't
fought
really
me on
want to
this
continue
and
on.
lost. So
really want to continue on in this podcast.
Well, that's okay, Caleb, because sometimes things are difficult to get through, but in the end, they end up being okay.
I'm not going to let you transition.
Oh, come on.
Danny has a new dog.
Come on. Hey, speaking of, I got a new dog.
You just destroyed me. I'm going to destroy your transition.
You destroyed yourself. Oh, no, sorry. I wanted to say one more thing first. A special thanks to a few of our listeners at the church I go to who were... They were driving down to Torrey College, and they posted a picture of the podcast they were listening to on the way down, and it was ours. And I was like, wow. And on the one episode where I definitely said twerking on Satan at least 3 times. So also for that one, I'm sorry.
Twerking on Satan.
I'm sorry for saying twerking on Satan 3 different times, but
I thought I could forget that video, but now it's back in my mind. And it's very unfortunate.
Yeah, it's not wonderful. It's super not.
But
do you know what is wonderful? I have a new dog,
puppy.
So here's. Do we want the story?
Yeah.
So Izzy passed away December 2019, and I thought it'll be fine. I'll be able to get through all this.
Izzy is his formal dog.
Is my old dog? Yeah.
It's not a human being, although the loss is still painful.
It is. Yeah. It was time. So that actually helps. Anyway, there's a whole episode on it. Izzy was a great dog. And I kind of thought I know I need to get a dog at some point, but I need some time to get through some things. I knew I was going to move. I was going to go through a lot, and I just kind of needed the time. And I thought, and I have some good people at church that I'm able to go talk to and hang out at their home. And so I think I'll be okay, just not keeping a dog at home to come back to.
Yeah.
And then we closed down forever, and I just sat at home alone this is garbage. So anyway, but I was going to move, so I wasn't going to get a dog. So
yeah.
And I told people, because they asked, am I going to get a new dog anytime? And I was like, I don't know how to explain this. I'll know when I see the dog.
Yeah.
I'll know. It's not just, oh, that's a cute dog, because there are plenty of cute dogs. I was like, that is a really cute dog, and I feel nothing for it. Like my cold, dead heart feels nothing for this dog.
Yeah.
So I found a dog that I pulled up the video of it, and I made the following noise. Oh. And I was like, all right, so clearly we have to go meet this dog. It was 18-pound Scotty. He was 2 years and adorable. And I was like, okay, how far away is he? He's an hour away. Oof. All right. And then I saw they were having an adoption fair at Petco an hour away. And I was like, okay, I'll go on Saturday. If Scotty is there, I'll be bringing back a new dog. And if not, probably not. So I go down there. And I talked to the person, I'm like, hey, Scotty? And the person's like, oh, Scotty got adopted basically immediately after we put it on social media because that dog is small and adorable. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And I was about to drive an hour back home, and the girl kind of told me, hey, I have one more dog that I have to bring out. Do you have a minute? I'm like, this is the only thing I have to do today.
Yeah.
This is fine. And brought this dog out, and the dog came up to me, put his paws on my shoulder, and gave me a hug. And I was like, oh, this is my dog. And I said that out, like I openly said, like, this is my dog.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, I'm getting this dog. This dog is 44 pounds.
Yeah.
And a year and a month. And I'm like, well, those are going to be some obstacles that we're going to have to get through.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting this dog. His name is Zepp. It was short for Zeppelin.
Yeah, which is weird.
So here's a question for you.
Zeppelin.
When you heard that name, what's the first thing that you think of?
in Zeppelin.
Mm-hmm.
I think of the Indiana Jones movie when the German, they have a Zeppelin and.
So the blimp.
Yeah, the blimp. Yeah.
For 2 days, it did not occur to me that that's the name of a rock band. Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin, yeah.
And I'm like, that makes more sense to name him after Led Zeppelin than a blimp.
Yeah.
Someone called me on like, oh, after the rock band. And I went, yes, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly not named. I mean, that'd be the same as naming the dog Coop. You know, like as in coupe if you're British. But,
that's my brother's dog's name.
Well, not Cooper, but like, this is my dog. His name is Sedan or something. Or like automobile. Or I named my dog Plane. I'm like, that makes no sense. And now I'm like, oh yeah, it's a rock band.
Yeah.
Duh. So, but yeah, I have a dog now. We're working.
He's so cute.
We're working on things.
Yeah. He's definitely rowdy.
He's being a spiteful turd today. I'm okay saying it. I love this dog dearly. He is being a spiteful turd.
Yeah, he is. But he's so cute, so he gets away with it, and it's kind of annoying.
He's not getting away with.
At least in my heart.
Yeah. He peed on the carpet before we started taping, and normally if I'm coming at him saying stop, he'll stop. This time he turned and maintained eye contact, and I'm like, you're just mad. You're just mad.
The previous 15 minutes he was
30.
trying to eat Danny's food, and then he was constantly pushing him away, saying no.
That's fine. I'm gonna pee on the floor.
And then he just walked up. It's pretty immediate too, because he was genuinely just like fighting you over your food, and then he immediately walked away and just peed on the carpet.
Yep. So
very spiteful.
We've had a rough couple of days. Him and I. We're learning each other. We're learning to figure out each other, and we're having the dominance struggle that you have to have if you have a new dog. Of okay, so who's the alpha in the house? And it's me. He just doesn't know it yet. So. And he's been kind of play biting, and we'll get to a point where it gets too rough, and I will assert my dominance and pin him, but he's a slippery boy, and so I'm having to lay on top of him until I've crushed him emotionally, but not physically.
Yeah.
And that's really hard for me. I'll be honest, that's crazy hard for me to do.
Yeah.
Because he cries. He's like, I'm like, oh no, stay strong, Burton. Burton, stay strong.
Yeah.
So it's hard though.
Yeah, I bet.
Because he just like whimpers, and it's sad, and I think he might have been abused, so I don't know, but I have to do this because I care about the dog.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part, is I actually care about the dog, and because of that I have to discipline him.
Yeah.
Right. And train him to like pay attention to commands, do the thing he's told.
Yeah.
And I haven't had to do this to a dog in a while, because Izzy was like 11 and old. She's like, I'm old. I'm not gonna.
Did you have to discipline her at first?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. She was she was actually a lot like Zepp. So she had a backyard, and this is kind of the part that I'm like, did I do okay bringing a dog into a condo? So we're going to have a Monday dog park day, I think, and I'm going to bring books, and we're going to read, and he's going to pee all over creation out there. We'll figure it out. But no, I did Izzy got disciplined pretty heavily. So, but Chow, because the dog's part Chow, they're a bit more aggressive than Izzy, so his bites.
Isn't Chow like the little dog?
Chow kinda. So Chow's they're medium size, but there's definitely a little bit of Chow in this dog.
The Dogecoin.
Are they the Dogecoin? I actually don't know. Maybe.
Isn't that a Chow? Because that's anytime I see his face. Oh.
No, not Chow. I'm thinking of something else. So anyway.
Oh, I know what you're thinking of.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Freaking.
Right.
I can't remember. That's unfortunate.
They are a bit more aggressive, so I'm having to I'm all scratched up because.
Yeah. Me too.
I mean,
you're taking more of the beating.
I'm all
than
scratched
I am.
up, so yeah.
Yeah, he's
But
got
we'll
a big old slice on his arm. I keep on touching, which
and it hurts every time. So, but it's getting better. We're definitely getting better. It's just very
struggle.
Yeah, it is. I mean, disciplining is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And for the dog, it's hard because it's like, I think he kind of knows the thing he has to do and is working on the impulse to do them. And whether this is nice or not, it's I'm finding a lot of parallels to my job in children's ministry of, I mean, because I've had kids who were like trying to sneak candy in front of me.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, stop. And then they'd shove more in their mouth. And I'm like, you're an animal. And I mean that in the most endearing way I can say that. Like, I love animals, but like, what the heck, man? Like, you know that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's why you're like, ooh, no. Like, what are you doing? And you're wandering off to places that you shouldn't have to go. So far, no one at church has peed on the floor. No, that's not true. A kid did pee on the floor once, but that was because they weren't potty trained. But it's like, stop. Just, it's so hard to take actual discipline. And I don't even think it's a matter of knowing the right thing to do, but actually believing it and putting it in faith that this is the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's hard.
This is kind of a side note, but do you think dogs have any idea of like the like who their creator is spiritually? Do you think they have a spiritual connection at all? I've always wondered that. I mean, because the Bible says all creation kind of like knows in one way or another.
Point to that.
Or like
groans in expectation.
What's the verse? I can't remember.
All creation groans in expectation.
Yeah, something like that.
So like, if that's your criteria, I'll say no, because I don't think rocks have any sense, let alone a sense of the divine.
So you don't agree with that Hillsong song?
What's the Hillsong song?
Hillsong song.
What's the Hillsong song?
If something's like God of creation, but that's literally a verse in there is, if the rocks cry out in silence, so will I.
Oh, so no, that is biblical. Well, that is based in something biblical. So they're talking about the part where Jesus is saying, if you silence us, even the rocks will cry out. And I think that's the testimony of creation to God. I don't think rocks have
on the ground,
a longing to be with Jesus. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think there's kind of, like, we're splitting some really weird hairs on this.
Yeah.
There is this we're getting into my crazy man theories. Creation is broken, and if I could anthropomorphize it, knows it's broken and groans in pain to be made whole. With that said, I think it's just anthropomorphism, and not that rocks have to any degree an amount of sentience. Does that make sense?
They don't have a mind, is what you're saying.
Or like any bearing of sentience.
I completely agree. I think the only thing that like inanimate objects like have a connection to God is because God created them, and like I've always just pictured it as like God is just like holding the molecules of everything together. Like the atoms are being, like everything is held together by him,
right?
And so like there's a connection there, but I've never assumed that they have.
Right, they have some sentience. Like,
I have a pet rock.
Hey, rocks, I can't wait till Jesus comes back, but I don't want to take it for granted. And then they all just punish that rock by throwing themselves at him.
Yeah.
That would be how you do that, right?
That's funny.
So,
but anyways,
yeah, so
back to discipline.
They would have to discipline that rock for his bad joke.
I can't stand your segues.
Speaking, no. For the dog though, it's been a matter of discipline and just I know this kind of comes off as a stupid connection I made here, but I was actually thinking about this even prior to prepping the show notes of, this is a dog that I know better, and I'm not trying to harm him, and I'm not trying to do anything to damage him. I'm actually trying to keep him safe. So, because he likes to run out. If I didn't put him on a leash, he would be out in traffic.
Yeah.
And dead. And that would make for a super sad Danny.
Yes, it would.
Incredibly. So, and I'm having to discipline the dog in order to teach it and train it to not do those things. And then I got to thinking, is like, that is God and us. And do you know what I mean? Just the amount of things that I know are poor that I still do, that God's trying to discipline and train me out of because God knows better. And I think that's what one of the hardest parts of Christianity is, the disciplining.
Right.
It's this one's not enjoyable either. I mean, no one enjoys time out, and for my dog, my dog doesn't enjoy being pinned to the ground and having all the dominance taken out of him. But it is a necessary thing for the dog to thrive and be successful.
Yeah, it's for sure. You want to read this verse that we got here?
Yeah, go for it.
And dive in. All right. This is Hebrews 12:3-11. Consider him who endured from sinners such hostility against himself, so that you may not grow weary or faint-hearted. In your struggle against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood, and you have not forgotten the exhortation that addresses you as sons. My son, do not regard lightly the discipline of the Lord, nor be weary when reproved by him. For the Lord disciplines the one he loves, and chastises every son whom he receives. It is for discipline that you have to endure. God is treating you as sons. For what son is there whom his father does not discipline? If you are left without discipline, in which all have participated, then you are illegitimate children and not sons. Besides this, we have had earthly fathers who disciplined us, and we respected them. Shall we not much more be subject to the Father of spirits and live? For they disciplined us for a short time as it seemed best to them, but he disciplines us for our good, that we may share his holiness. For the moment all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it.
So kind of the part that like jumps out to me is pretty important is for the Lord disciplines the ones he loves and chastises every son whom he receives. And this is quoting, I think it's quoting Proverbs also, so it is pulling back into that. But there is this idea of discipline comes in love to the person who gets it. It isn't because the Father's trying to take all the joy out of all of our stuff. It's that he's actually trying to train us to make us well, to protect us, and it's based in God's love towards us that we are disciplined. But to be clear, the discipline is never. It's not fun. It's not supposed to be fun. It's not intended to be this enjoyable, like, wow, I got a spanking today and I'm super excited about it. But we are better because of the discipline instead of being willing to just go off and do our own thing.
I don't think it always has to be, like, in my experience, it hasn't always been something that's that is just like super, super painful.
Right.
I mean, it is in a way.
Right.
But in the sense that like it's something that can be turned into joy. And I think that that's what is like so loving about God too, is that like I think for me, I'd like to hear what your like biggest moment of discipline was in your life from God. But for me, it was I graduated high school, and I had like I know what I wanted to do. I wanted to do like film work in ministry, and I wanted to do that full time. And looking back, I realize now I was not ready. I was not there yet. Even just like in my film skills. And so I was offered a job at a production company, and it wasn't a bad job by any means, but for me, like, I had no desire to do that. You know, I had no desire to take that job, but I didn't feel like I knew that that's what God was calling me to do at the time. And I didn't think that I was, like, I knew where my calling was as far as, like, wanting to do ministry with film.
Sure.
But I knew that I wasn't quite there yet, and that this is what God wanted me to do. And, like, and it was really painful. I mean, it really was. And it took a lot of just, like, you know, like it turned into a place where, like I was saying, like where I could have joy in it and find contentment. But at first, like, it was just really, it's kind of like a struggle, you know? I mean, there's benefits to it, but like overall it was kind of, you know, painful for sure. Yeah. But like I wouldn't have wanted to do it another way looking back. Right. Because I know now, like, how much God grew me through that. Not even just like like, it's easy to look at that and be like, think that it just only applies to the work context, like my work life. But really, I mean, it changed me in all sorts of ways, like in my character, in my relationship with God, because just trying to find, like, just finding satisfaction in Him alone is really what that taught me. And I'm still not good at it, you know, just be honest with you. But like, you know, I'm definitely better than I was in high school, you know. And yeah, and so, like, discipline it's crazy because, like, it's cool, like, to look back on those times in life and know that, you know, what seemed like a really painful part of life sometimes is actually, like, you know, brings a lot of joy in the future. Like, it's exactly as it says.
So I think discipline, there's it's slightly different in this context than kind of things that take us and mold us. But it is a like, gosh, mine, it kind of ongoing a little bit. It's complicated. I've had moments that I've thought were rock bottom as far as things I've struggled through that I've needed to, like, give up in order to honor God better. Conversations I had to have that were very painful in order to honor God through a few different things. But you know, like, I guess the consistent part of the discipline was learning to say I'm wrong and go and make amends. That to be honest is the hardest part of the discipline for me, is to actually concede a point that I might be wrong. And I think I've gotten a lot better at that, because that's important. But there is a chastisement that does come alongside that a bit, that is important, essentially to get the spanking, if I can be crude, to get the spanking in order to not do it again. So there were, gosh, what would be the biggest one? That's a really hard question, because I first have to think of it, and then I have to think of whether or not I actually want to tell it. I'd say, No, go ahead.
Well, I think you make an interesting point before you tell your story. That like, I think there's different, and that's kind of why I was wondering what like your biggest or like kind of most impactful one was, because I don't think like mine. I think there's more like macro disciplines than like micro. Like there's definitely like day to day, just like I mean,
discipline or disciplines.
Like, yeah, exactly, like you're saying.
No, I mean that's a question.
I mean, I don't know, but like just smaller time periods, I guess, if that makes sense. Like there's ones that span over like a long period of time, and then there's ones that could even just be like a freaking day that you had.
Right.
And
right.
But anyways, continue.
Well, like I was talking to a person, and they mentioned as far as, you know, because I do think this passage is a bit talking about struggling through our poor choices, our sinful choices, that kind of thing, and that there is punishment, or well, not punishment, because the punishment is taken by Christ, but the discipline is given by God, and that's to help us. And I think I was actually challenged on this by a person that brought it up out of a different perspective, that as all these pastors, these big name pastors are, well, you know, they're falling. They're doing that as a part of the discipline of God because of things they've done, and this discipline, this pursuit of perfection, of righteousness, that comes out of obedience, is more important than even our job. And they kind of made a few statements that, I mean, because there are pastors that they end up in jail for stuff they've done, and if I actually think that God works to the good of those who are in Him, if I actually think that, and if I actually believe in the sovereignty of God, then I need to trust that it is better to lose my job than to continue to struggle in sin.
Right.
And if part of the discipline is I lose my job because it's kind of a hindrance to coming out of that kind of sin, then that's actually okay and a good and better thing. And that was one of the more challenging things I'd ever heard for, like, as far as godly discipline goes, that it is better to crush the idols that all of us keep in place, and many of us don't have to have challenged at all, of like of power, status, and wealth. Right. It's better that those be crushed by the hand of God than crush us under their weight. Yeah, that's good. And that was very challenging to hear, because I think that's the thing a lot of us give. Like all of us can kind of claim that, but until it actually comes up, then it's not a thing that any of us are crazy interested in doing. Of like, of course, God, I love you more than my job. Cool, I'm gonna take your job then. Hold up, hold up, go back. Right. Do you have to? Yeah, I do. Oh, but like, don't, you know? So I think that's kind of an interesting, not take on it, but an interesting perspective of God is working all things out to His glory and His good, and He's bringing me alongside with Him. Right. Even if it sucks. Yeah. So, yeah, gosh, it's really hard to pinpoint the hardest moment of discipline for me.
Or even a moment of discipline.
A moment.
Could be 10 years ago. It could be last week. I mean, you don't have to share.
No, like I'm just trying to figure out. It's not that God isn't doing things. I want to be clear. I'm not kind of like.
It's that there's just a lot to choose from.
Well, yeah. No, it's just that it's more of the slow burn discipline. I think that the day I felt as if God had asked me to be open about a few of the struggles I was going through and tell a few different people. You know, there were like 3 people that got my complete story, because I felt that God needed me to tell them. Not God needed me. Gosh, that's not what I mean. That God was going to use my past as a means to glorify the name of God and get a person on a better foundation moving forward. And I super didn't want to, because it was all the details of stuff that I didn't want to bring up and I was able to hide. And when I had to stop trying to hide that, I guess it was kind of a moment of discipline, of needing to bring things out into the open. But it did a couple of things for me. It brought things out into the open, and it was like, I don't have to actually be afraid of this thing or try and cover it up or bury it, because people know now, and that's fine. And to them, it was able to encourage them and actually, if only for a time, stop a few of the things they had been being tempted towards. So, I'm not sure that counts as discipline. There's been,
I mean, I think that is for sure. Like, opening up is definitely something that's hard. And I think it's interesting. Like, I mean, this is kind of just aside from, but I guess it could be a discipline. But like, opening up, and like you're saying, like, it's really cool to see God use times that we went through that make us feel shame or worthless, or just, bad, and see that he not only like redeems that in our life personally, but then like uses that in other people's lives is insane. You know? Because I mean, like, the power of testimony and just like how God moved in our life is just insanely powerful. And and I think that can be a discipline for sure. That like, just the discipline of being transparent and opening up, and obviously it doesn't have to be with everyone, but knowing like spirit led, like what the time is and when, and I think that's a great example.
And I mean, before like questions come in, like, that story will not be shared on this podcast, period, because I think too many of our testimonies have devolved into, here's how bad of a sinner I was, and then the afterthought is, and then I came to Jesus and everything is fine. Like, we spend 90% of the story talking about the garbage and only 10% talking about the actual important part. So and the details aren't necessary, because in an ultimate kind of sense, I was dead and now I'm alive, period. That's kind of all people's testimony who have come to God. So but there is this aspect of taking those things and redeeming them to the glory of God, but also there was, as I was struggling through them in the middle of the things I had done, there was some pretty heavy, not chastisement, but I guess if I had to explain it, it was the Spirit in me going, this thing is killing you. Why are you still doing it? And that was the discipline. And that sounds weak as I describe it, but like, the impact of that type of understanding, that God still there, still in the middle of the mess, is calling something out and going, that's killing you. Why? and just to call that out and be honest was one of the more humbling moments. That was actually I was 17, 18 at the time, and I consider that to be the turning point of me, just because of everything I had done and gone through. I was doing some things I should not have been doing, and prior to that, it was an accident, or just, not an accident, but like, it was convenient. And then it became more premeditated. Not murder. Didn't murder anyone, but it became more planned out instead of, oh, I'm here, whatever. It became, no, this was the intent. And as I was driving home, I felt as if God had been speaking and said, in spite of all the things that you've that you have done, just did, and will ever do, I still love you. Right. How do you not get that yet?
Right.
And that it's to God, the discipline isn't a slamming.
Mm-hmm.
It's a there's love in it.
Right. Yeah.
It's a, if it comes off as God is going, you're such garbage, then that's not God. That's not the
right
voice of a loving father. This is a father that cares enough about their child to put them in timeout, but to take time and stay with them.
Right.
And I think that's the bigger difference.
Yeah. I mean, I think for sure. Like, it's because he loves us and because he knows the other side of our flesh, you know, that he knows that we are better without it, that he wants to cut it away. And I think that, like, you brought up a point, or like when you were talking earlier, you said that like it became premeditated, and I think that that's very interesting because our flesh is something that like we desire. Like a lot of times Christians talk about it as like, you know, I'm just struggling. Like my flesh is really, and it's like, no, bro, like that's you. You want it, you know, like, and that's something I've realized a lot lately too, in that like we genuinely want this thing, and like you were saying that like God knows that that's gonna kill us. You know, he knows that the flesh is eating away, and that it's something that we genuinely desire.
Right.
You know, it's not like this thought in my head that is disconnected from my spirit. It's just like all tied together. Like, this is something I want. But it comes in trusting God that he loves you and cares about you, and that he knows what's best in this situation. Yeah. And it's hard. Yeah. You know, like
it's weird to think that you know, all the times the Bible talks about the judgment of God or the wrath of God poured out on a man is essentially tied right next to, so he gave them what they wanted. Like that, oh no, like, sure, if that's the thing that you're choosing, sure, take it. Have the full implication of this thing. Yeah. I mean, to the dog I have, it's a bit different. I'm trying to train certain types of behaviors, but to God, this is this idea of because I'm a new creation in Christ, I have to stop trying to feed the old dead guy. Right. The old dead guy's gone. He's dead. There's nothing that in the end, that old guy, the old person dies no matter what. It's a matter of, do we come alive in Jesus Christ or not? The old guy's dead. There isn't anything anybody can do. He's dead. Period. He's not kind of dead. He's not almost dead. He's dead. He's as good as dead. Done. Right. Kind of the same thing as, in the end, all knees bow before God. They either bow or they are made to bow, but all knees bow to in a manner of some sorts. Yeah. But the wrath of God is giving man what they want. Right. I mean, it says in what we just read in Hebrews, like, for what son is there whom his father does not discipline? If you were left without discipline, in which you have all participated, then you are illegitimate children and not sons. Right. And he's literally saying, like, if I were to let you live in this, I would not love you. Right. And I think that it's just like, it's crazy. Like, the power of like conviction is love, and I think that conviction is scary sometimes because it's so closely in people's mind tied to condemnation. Yeah. And that, like, which split those two, because it's not, you know, and that's something I've had to really, you know, realize a lot in my life lately, and as I like I feel like I'm finally getting a grasp of like getting to know God, and I mean, and that's just going to continue in life. I don't know God that well as much as I would like, but like that there's like the voice in there,
And I know that like if I feel shame and if I feel something about like a thought on my sin or a choice I'm about to make in life,
right,
that's not him.
Right.
You know, that I need to find, it's okay to feel like I need to change my ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the difference between conviction and condemnation is one tells you you're not fit for use.
Right.
You're worthless. And the other tells you, like I don't want you to do that thing, but it's a different reason.
It's kind of the difference between if a house has, termites. If a house has termites, now I can treat the termites. I'm probably gonna have to open up a wall, take some things out, put some new things in.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna keep the house up. Another effective treatment plan is burn the house down. And like it works.
Yeah.
Like there are no termites at the end of it. And I think that's kind of the difference between condemnation and conviction. That conviction is going to treat the termites, tear parts of the house out that don't be there or are dead or dying, and put in better new things. Condemnation burns the house down. It says the whole thing is done. And it has no point. So I think that's the big difference is God is trying to build us up, not to just condemn us. Those that are in Christ are not condemned. So when condemnation comes, that's not God.
Yeah.
And I found personally that I need to be careful of the times that the enemy is speaking in taking a thing a person is confronting me about, and I take it as, well, they're condemning me. Like, no. They're being convicting. The enemy is twisting it. And I think to be very kind of open and fair about the process, I have to be willing to approach things from the angle that God approaches them. Right. And if I'm being convicted on things, if there's truth to the thing, I need to approach it in the manner that God approaches it.
Right.
Instead of going, well, it's because I'm a failure and I need to stop and quit my job and go away and change my profession and everything else. So,
and I think another thing like that I've noticed lately that's just like a very practical thing that has helped me in this is like, especially with bigger stuff. I mean, if it's just like a smaller thought that you can, tackle, sure. But that like before you, like I can typically recognize when my thoughts are kind of skewed and I'm just like not capable of processing them properly. Right. And like I found it's best to just kind of like tuck them away. Right. And go to sleep. Right. And wake up the next day and to like be in the Word and like bring them up again. Right. And I like it helps a ton because I nowadays, I'm 20, but I feel like I'm just getting so sluggish and slow in my brain. And like, and I think it goes back to the verse that, and that might be my specific way. I'm not saying that works for everyone, but like it goes back to the verse, just like hold every thought captive and genuinely like take that seriously in your life, that thoughts have a lot of power over us. And so hold them captive and interrogate them, see what is God and what isn't, and throw out anything else that isn't.
I'm just like picturing words tied to a chair. Tell us what I don't know. Sorry. I'm picturing like Jack Bauer interrogating words. I took a mental turn and I apologize for that.
Yeah.
Oh, Jack Bauer.
Jack Bauer.
Yeah. But no, that's a good point of taking every thought captive is understanding the thoughts of, prior to getting to that place of condemnation, you have to actually understand the angle that God's coming at, and that God's angle is out of love to make us holy, and that even in the discipline, it's not that our standing has changed, because our standing is given by Christ, and our standing is in God and Christ alone, and given to us by grace. And then it's a matter of progressively being sanctified over time until we are more and more like Him each day. Yeah. And that's the it doesn't change our identity. It doesn't change our person. It's a matter of catching up to the thing that God has declared us to have already been.
Yeah, it's living like sin. Sanctification is a process where sin just doesn't have a hold on you anymore, and like the sin loses its power, I should say. And then, I mean, like, you know this better than I do, but there's the stage of justification, sanctification, and glorification. Sanctification is sin losing its power over time as you become more like Christ. And then glorification is sin being gone. Like, the presence of sin is gone, right?
Sorry, you mentioned Ortus Salutis, and my brain, I did it was supposed to be a 15-page paper. It ended up being a 30-page paper. And Dr. Ryan Reeves, I apologize for that. Please forgive me. But then he wrote another paper on top of my paper in red. Scared the poo out of me. Still gave me an A, but it was fine. Yeah. The power. So the only thing I'm going to push back on is that the sanctification doesn't take out the power of the sin that was done on the cross, and that part it doesn't actually have any power.
I wouldn't even say power. In my mind, I meant effect.
Effect. Kinda. Like there's a certain amount of battling between the old person and the new person. I'd say sanctification is the process of taking up the qualities of the new man in Christ and crucifying the old man daily. But the power is already stripped by God. It's a pet peeve of mine, and why I'm coming down hard on it is I've heard too many prayers of like, oh God, just take these chains of addiction off me or something. It's like, they're already off. Like, everything Christ needed to do is done. That part's over. It's done. There aren't other
that happens
things.
In justification.
Justification is a switch of it's on or it's off. Period.
Right.
And you don't get to touch the light switch. Only Jesus does.
Right.
And so that's kind of the only thing I'd push back on is the power aspect, because that part's done by Christ. And so those prayers of God, please help me break the chains of the sin, I kind of imagine just like God eating a donut going like, I did like, I'm gonna go back to the donut because I already did it and I'm good. Like,
I see what you're saying, but it's also like sin still is very, at least now,
right.
Our as far as how the Father views us, we are justified.
Right.
But I'd say now, we are still very much affected by sin in the world, and it still has. I would say power isn't the right word, but sure, if we died then, if they died with this, the feeling like the chains of addiction are still on them, but they have been justified, they're going to heaven. That's not
right.
The technical, like you're saying, the power of sin is gone, but the effect of it is still there, that our flesh needs to be cut off over time.
Sure, absolutely.
And I'd say that's kind of I guess I see what you're saying, but it's also I feel kind of dismissive a little bit.
It 100% is dismissive, because the only reason that it has power is because we keep giving it power. As Christ stated on the cross, tetelestai, the Greek grammatical of it. Yeah, we're going super nerd. What's up? The Greek grammatical is a completed event that its impact is still felt. So as far as tetelestai, it is finished. If I can be clunky in the Greek to English of it, is everything that Christ needs to do, it has been completed, and its impact will still be felt even to this day.
Right.
If I get into the picky grammatical end of it. And so these prayers of God, take the chains off. Well, the chains are only on because we keep putting them back on for some crazy reason. The discipline is telling us to not pick up the chains, but
that's why it's a process.
The issue in that prayer that I keep is it's almost treated as if there's more that Christ needs to do because the chains I'm still covered in chains. And it's like, no, well,
I would say he doesn't have to do it, but he wants to, and that's
no,
why I kind of feel
for that. It's already
prayer.
off, and I do feel for them, but there's this expectation that the thing Christ did isn't enough. There's still more to do, and I'm like, you're good.
No,
you are able.
I see what you're saying, but I in my eyes,
you're able to not do that now.
It's very easy to say that, but what they're praying for in my mind, when I view that prayer, I view it as sanctification. Justification has been done, but Christ still wants to, literally what this is talking about, he still wants to discipline us and make us more like him.
Right.
And so as they're praying, even as those chains have fallen off, but I still need Christ's help in order to free myself from addiction in the present.
Right. And I was only pushing back on the power thing that you started on, because there isn't actual power still there. It's been stripped of its power because I'm justified in Christ. That the ultimate impact of that is taken out because I am justified in Christ. There isn't anything it can actually do to me at this point because the biggest consequence has been placed on Christ instead of on me. And now it's a matter through sanctification, because all of us do still struggle through the temptation to try and keep the dead man alive for some
the
reason.
Effect is still there because of us. It's not because obviously Christ did what needed to be done as far as the power, but the effect is there because we allow it to be there.
Right.
And
which is what I'm saying. Yeah.
And we still need Christ's help in that.
Sure.
I'm not able to do anything apart from him, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And it's I know it comes off as aggressive at first, but it's actually a really big encouragement that you're actually already free. You are not bound by chains. And I mean that so stop being crazy and stupid, but in a manner of we are actually free. And there's hope and grace in that there isn't this other thing Christ needs to do. That, okay, now I've been taken out of death, but now I need the mega action of this, is that in Christ, I keep all the things I need to not do the thing I keep going back to. And it's just not as big of a battle as I think it is in my head, because the battle is completed in Christ, not in me. But I get the thing that you're stating about dying to the self every day and the importance and struggle of that. The I guess the thing I've noticed is there are plenty of people that they over ascribe power to sin, and by thinking it still keeps a claim on us. And that's the part that I will vehemently push back against, because it doesn't have a claim on us. We just keep going back to it because I don't know.
Right. And I think I think the best illustration in my head is the fact that, or is the one where we're in a jail cell and Jesus opens the cell.
Right.
And he's like, all right, come out. Right. And I can't.
I'm locked in this cell.
Yeah. We choose to just
the door's open.
Sit in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I think in my mind it helps me to view it as like, I mean, it just shows how loving of a God is, and that's literally what this verse that we read before is about, is that Christ did what needed to be done.
Right.
And there is nothing else he needs to do.
Right.
But he wants to make us more like him in the temporary, which is just like insanely cool to me. You know, that
absolutely.
He could have just done what he wanted to do and like just kind of like left us on our own and not had the Holy Spirit come down, you know, but it still would have been effective, right? You know, like, but he wants us. Yeah. He wants us to become more like him. So like, you know, I think it is easy for me to fall into that mindset of like, you know, God, I mean, and it's true. Like we can't sanctify ourselves. Right. Like we can't walk out of the cell on our own. Right. Like ultimately we do still need Jesus to hold our hand and to walk us out of there, because we're basically just blind and
sure. Yeah.
But you know, like even if he didn't do that, we'd, like you're saying, we'd still like the cell is still open.
You're more open and free than you think you are. And don't over-ascribe power to a thing that Christ has defeated. Because I've just watched too many people think that they're condemned by a struggle. And I'm like, you're not condemned. You're actually free. Now be free. And that's kind of the I can't think of where that is, but the verbal Indiana Jonesing that Paul does of, you are free people, now live as free people. So yeah. But through all this, I do think it's important that as this process is going on, to not scorn the discipline of God, because it's an act of grace and a love and mercy to a person, instead of an act of trying to burn down the house because termites. So we want to hear from you guys. Is it easy or difficult to take the discipline of God, and why or why not is it those? So please tell us in the comments. We want to hear from you, and a good place to do that is to go to our website at thegospeloutpost.com/nobodyspecial. There's a form. You can talk to us or ask us questions, or just to say hi. Caleb and I enjoy the emails
we do.
Of hi and comments and that type of thing. Also, are we on social media?
We are. You can find us at Nobody Special Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and you can, you know, keep up with us there if you want to see kind of our posting schedule on you know, podcast platforms and YouTube. And then you can also comment there, DM us if you want to reach out and ask us questions or say hello. And then also YouTube. Did you already talk about YouTube?
No, I didn't.
You can subscribe there. That's the Gospel Outpost YouTube channel, and you can find our podcasts on there. And comment there as well if you want to reach out. And make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell icon. And
absolutely, dab on them haters. And Kev and I appreciate everyone who tells their friends about the show. We don't spend money on advertising, and word of mouth is our primary means. So we do appreciate it a ton. And the road trips to Bible colleges that you chose to listen to us instead of something good. Sorry, that's how my brain finished that sentence midway through, and that's where we're gonna.
Thank you for really just discrediting us.
Hey,
you know, we got to act like
we know where we are.
We got to act like we're at least somewhat, you know, enjoyable. Maybe. Yeah.
Quasi. So, but well, Caleb, I've had a blast today. This has been a lot of fun.
It's good.
And for listeners paying attention in the background, you heard the new dog a couple of times also, and we decided to power through.
Yes.
So tell us in the comments where you heard the don't do that. Okay.
No,
well, Caleb, I think that's going to do it for us today. So I'm Danny.
And I'm Caleb.
And we are
Nobody Special.